Good evening and welcome to the 2021 MSU Filmetry Festival. I'm Pete Johnston, a filmmaker and faculty in the Film Studies program and co-founder, along with Cindy Hunter Morgan, of the festival. I'm thrilled for the opportunity to commune with you all in our separate living rooms, once again to share in this collaborative art-making gesture. In the midst of the ongoing fatigue and grief surrounding the pandemic, the opportunity to share in this act of creation truly fills me with joy. This year, as Cindy will explain, our filmmakers adapted work created for the anthology Voices Amidst the Virus. But Cindy and I were thrilled to add on this curricular piece of programming as well. Cindy invited her students in Intro to Poetry Writing to write and share an original piece about the ongoing pandemic. I then invited my Intro to Film and Digital Media students to choose one of those pieces to adapt into a film. We watched the resulting work and chose two pieces, one from each section of my class, to share with you tonight. Carlos Lundback's version of Lauren Rasko's piece, Neverland 2020, and Maddie Katz's version of Natalie Menino's poem, 2020 Vision, stood out to us for the melancholy yet incisive language, the interpretation of the pandemic through distinct points of view, and the cinematic yet big-hearted visual interpretations. We congratulate Natalie, Lauren, Carlos, and Maddie on their terrific work, as well as all of the poets and filmmakers from both of our classes who participated in this exercise. To begin our program tonight, here are the winning student filmetry entries, Neverland 2020 and 2020 Vision.
Mother talks about the past a lot. Life pre-mask. She walks hand in hand with nostalgia and refuses to let go, even when her palms sweat. She's an artist in a way, painting murals in my brain about yesterdays. Days from years ago before I was even born. Right now, I'm in second grade. At my age, she would go to recess. How dare she breathe in the fresh air today? All the screaming, the touching, the footsteps, blood pumping, hearts pounding, the rush of adrenaline. Peter Pan and Captain Hook were 7-year-old children. That's what friends were for those days. Friends were always meant to play. In my world, friends are for FaceTime. Playtime is so far-fetched, I've never met my best friend. There are too many regulations. Danger fills the air and safety is distance. My imagination locked in a prison. Neverland is never known in a pandemic. I have a lot of questions. Mother didn't have these questions to ask. In the grocery store, a child may pass. What are they like behind their mask? If only I could be Peter Pan too. As I wish to run around in her light-up shoes. Mother lived my version of Peter Pan. Life pre-mask is my Neverland.
I can only see your eyes, staring and straining with what your face has to say, but cannot. Speak to me, every lash a letter, each blink a syllable, the pupil turning to a mouth, the iris as sacred and fundamental as the tongue. These eyes have turned to much more than windows, as they struggle to be mirrors, hearts, hands. What a burden laid upon such a small organ. Blue and purple veins weighed down the fragile tissue underneath my eyes, as the months drag on, the bodies piling in the empty streets. I can see for miles. My eyes, the only muscles I can exercise, and all there is are the grey hills of time, lost and blended together, running right past me. I can only see your eyes, and it is as if I have seen your life. It is as if I have hugged you. It is as if I have travelled from March to January at your side. I can only see your eyes, and the stories they carry, the losses they hold. Tell me everything you wish to say, but cannot.
Hi, I'm Cindy Hunter Morgan, co-founder with Peter Johnston of the MSU Filmetry Festival. It really was fun to connect poets in my class with filmmakers in Pete's class and see what they created separately and together. When I watched the films made by Pete's students, I watched them back to back in one sitting, and that experience gave me some bigger and better understanding of the magnitude of this pandemic and the impact it's had on our students. It also gave me a preview of what we're in for tonight, which is to say, I think we'll all feel how connected we are in our feelings of disconnection. As we once felt a sense of community in the movie theater, may we feel community tonight. We're delighted to be working with and from the fantastic anthology of poems, Voices Amidst the Virus, edited by Eileen Cleary and Christine Jones, and published by Lily Poetry Review Books. All of the films that follow were adapted from poems in this anthology. We wish we could have adapted all of them. It's a rich collection that documents something we need to document. As Eileen and Christine write in the introduction to their book, this anthology is a breathing documentary. It is as much a book about hope as it is about despair. It's a peek through the blinds, both into and out of every contributor's window. The poems in the anthology confront the complexities of our pandemic experiences. They are, as Mary Ruffel says poems must be, both venous and arterial. We can hear them thinking and feeling. What do we do with something that has both separated us from our lives and become uncomfortably and deeply a part of our lives? We make art. The process of dealing with the pandemic has, for many of us, been isolating. But in tonight's premiere, we hear poets and filmmakers turning isolation into art, turning isolation into something we can share. We also see poems becoming something new. We see them transformed into something that is visual, verbal, and audible. Margaret Atwood speculated that all writing is motivated deep down by a fear of and fascination with mortality, by the desire to make the risky trip to the underworld and to bring something or someone back from the dead. Many have lost people they love during this pandemic. Many others have contemplated that loss. In tonight's films, you'll hear people making that risky trip to the underworld. You'll also see people making risky trips into our own world here above ground, which sometimes feels more dangerous every day. Tonight, even as we acknowledge the danger and the inequities of the pandemic, may we also acknowledge hope, and may we find safety in art and in each other. Thank you for meeting us here in this virtual but very communal space. We hope you'll stay on after the films and join us for a discussion with poets and filmmakers.
Potatoes, their various moods. Your hand hesitates to reach for potatoes alive on your countertop until you cook them.
We have a new name for the coronavirus. The World Health Organization has officially called it COVID-19.
Bless the tubers who've known all along this life was not their own.
The World Health Organization just declared this a global health emergency, and unfortunately deaths will occur.
Coffins are hard to come by during plague.
A year ago, people were complaining about not finding toilet paper and hand sanitizers. This time of year, we're concerned because we're running out of granite for headstones.
More than 11.4 million cases of coronavirus that we know of around the world. At least 534,000 deaths.
The virus is so serious and people don't see it that way.
In the U.S. state of Michigan, hundreds of demonstrators crowded inside the Capitol building on Thursday to protest the governor's coronavirus lockdown order. Some demonstrators carried rifles and attempted to enter the legislative chamber, but were held back by police.
We are all foxfire or timber decayed. We are not.
I mean, this is it, right? I mean, finally, there is light at the end of the tunnel. We're going to go on offense against this virus, and that is exciting. Science is coming through here.
What I mean is, it's early March. Let's see how the weather holds.
The face of it. In dying, my husband doesn't wear a death mask. Think of the rock aster's center, its petals wind-whipped, shattered. the spiral of harmonies hovering close to the ground. Some days he's fog-bound, and I play him recordings of canyon wrens. Their mating trills cascade, reminding us of plateaus above their caked layers of iron, pressed lime and sand, lichen-fuzzed whiskers on stone. I remember his once long strides, drawing him far ahead. We used to imagine we were early explorers, startled like grouse flushed from sage by the sudden yawn of plunging crevasses. We were speechless as fire ants, but just as sharp, living then as now in wide open territory.
The idiocy of valuing the standards of an age against another, as if telos, as if an ascent rifted a margin, kept the present unprofitable, and also the measured necessity, lest the ethanol garble of mastery. A rudderless cargo ship foundered and bled out. Streams of Prosecco awash through a hull rifted and smeared with oil slick. A runnel of rainbow excretion for coral to filter and sea bass to gill suck and sink to the scavenger strip.
That looks cool. Get it over here though in the sun where it comes off a little bit.
We haven't been out walking much. This is just exhausting to him. No, you don't need that, whatever that is. Come on, buddy. Come on. Bye-bye.
Oh no, you got comfortable.
Bye-bye. Yeah, come on. I'll just eat it up here.
Norman, are you taking a picture of me? You have pretty eyes. Oh. No.
I'll just pour it on.
Oh, that's sweet. That's really cool. Oh, that's awesome. Oh, dude, that looks sick.
faith of believers who hold up their rulers against the horizon and see only what they believe. A hang-fired aquabus, quizzed in reverse, the penance that lesions, in pulsals and buboes, and leaves only families withered like milkmaids in drought-stricken fields. Blank eyes agape at the sun, and all the right bodies to gather and wash clean by hand and anoint, the faces to touch as the bodies are wrapped and released in the river, the fish on the stove for the meal.
Give me the dead, so I may lift them up and say their names. Give me the names of the nurses, like Lisa Ewald, who died in Detroit working double shift after double shift. Or Lamb Downing, the DJ who had cancer and told the doctors after he got the virus, save someone else. Every day, what is there but this? In the empty pews of St. Bridget's Cathedral, the hand-painted stations of the cross shine, waiting for the return of the abuelas who will kneel for the Mass. What is to remember is the absence of their bending knees, of their folded hands. Open your arms like cathedral doors flung wide for Pastor Jorge Ortiz Garay, who administered his life to the poor. And Nemo, courage, he would say. See him vade into the veil of rain, baptizing the brownstone streets. When no one else will or can, carry those who cannot. There is something beyond holy that is simple and tender as a mare lifting the afterbirth off a newborn foal. Let go all the sins we've kept locked in banks. All debts will be forgiven. Open the doors and spill the fuel on the ground. Strike the match. Let it all burn and warm your hands. We shall sway as one chorus of never before written psalms. In a new and languid patois, we invent as we go along, ordinary and sober, towards simple as a pop song blaring its cranky tune at the back of a pickup truck on the 4th of July. There is sweet tea and honey and biscuits. There is fried chicken and sweet potato pie. There are dumplings and pastellis, fried perch and steamed pork buns. The picnic tables are spread to the horizon line, there at the edge of the fields of the dead. There is something that shines. Far brighter than any state of fear, that describes children drawing with a stick in the dirt, nothing more than the simple shape of a human face.
We are witness to holiness that we can almost fold into shapes. What was 2 dimensions turns to 3, creased forms with capacity to hold and sculpt identity. Paper cranes, small dogs, butterflies, beings that mean what we have made. Now, in the days after the Paschal moon, we pleat masks, fold fabric, practice belief in the hinge of time. We speak in rhymes, listening to resonance in plain sentences, to the resilience of simply getting out of bed, or the way the days open, turn into a basket or a bird.
In the season of COVID, I peel the small sticker off the orange. Bright orb in a bowl reminds me of the pyramids of fruit the farmer built on his market's table, rows of stacked vivid citrus just weeks ago. And today, there are pictures of farmers' fruit in heaps. Unsold and over-ripened. Will it be only yellow jackets drunk on nectar, blazing the field while we wait behind our window panes, while I stuff forsythia branches in a jar? Spring winds blow and fever is raging. A grandmother dies alone. Snowdrops by the shed play tricks and a rabbit emerges. Indifferent, cool. This orange slice is sweet and daring.
half-light at lockdown summoned the moon. Deer breathed easy. She lingered in the deepening blue. Slowly numbering the 7 clearings. Up from hoof to horn and back again. Before circling into a bed of lichen, sweet fern, and star flower. Tonight, in the rising silence, she could sleep. Sound enough to dream, into the forest after man. There would be the old herd songs there, lush grasses, and wolves. She barely stirs when the boy brushes through the aspens, sets his things down at the roots and curls up by her side. He too, afield in the night, longed for that howl.
"6 feet. The ideal height of a man. What pertains to insects. What hangs in the air and the air. The difference between season and season. Which is to say, above and underground. Down you, down you, down you go, says Mr. 5-Foot Death.
In this way. There probably was a Trojan War,
a skirmish between small rival towns, but we only receive its echoes in literature. Facts about the battle are obscure, endlessly transformed by the Greek tragedians. In this way, the war lives deep in history, seemingly overwhelmed by stories. In this way, a virus hides in an urban population, replicating itself before breaking through. At first, we should avoid crowds. We should wash our hands. In this way, the virus is an ancient story, changing itself all the time to suit its environment. It is a dynamic story, evolving to suit the genetic complexities of its audience. In this way, the Trojan War lives deep in the cells of Greek literature and is also transformative. So now we are closing our schools. We are shutting down the theater district. In this way, crowds and transmission. The problem with the metaphor implicit in this poem is that the germ of the Trojan War helped the Greeks understand themselves and has helped me understand them. Know better that the battle itself remains forever of small geographical importance. A virus in the population among, let's face it, people I love, will emerge to a vastly different result. In this way, the germ of memory is not an actual germ. In this way, the nurses who might, for instance, tend to you, will adjust their masks before they enter your room. How are we doing today? They'll ask, though they know you are dying. Doing the best we can, I'm thinking, here in the past, looking out my window onto the dark street.
Mercy in a Cold April. Doesn't feel merciful. This year's already gone. Passed over by salvation and succumbing. In the part-still world, turkey buzzards spoke a wheel centered on the smokestack atop Hospital Hill. Centered, and I'm cascading homeward, to seal the windows, deadbolt doors into useless walls. Oh patience, the only thing said meekly while we wait. Wait, oh patience, wait, oh patience. It's in the air. Nothing's settled.
It is true then. Something this way evolves with all its invisible teeth. Our rigorous and creative confrontations meaningless. Nothing changes all at once but it changes completely into us. There is no difference in mourning. Free yourself enough to ask, am I different? If I see the same things day after day, am I different?
Now to growing concerns about the deadly coronavirus officially hitting the U.S.
Dozens of hospitals in Michigan at 95% capacity.
Nation tonight has marked a new watershed moment in the COVID-19 pandemic. 500,000 confirmed deaths.
I think I went barefoot in the grass for the first time in a long time. I made some changes to the way I regretted not saying things how I felt them. I was so caught up in what would happen next. The thing of it is all around us. It exists or it doesn't exist, and we can't tell until it strikes us close enough to hear it breathing in place of our usual breath. I don't want an obscure number of people to die for any reason, virus or violence. I only sometimes feel brave enough to think about how many insects exist at once in the valley fields. Maybe there is something to disaster as recognition of spirits taking up their wares in the night markets. It makes sense to worship a volcano, to withdraw into our own homes at the earliest rumble. That we must stay here is new to us. And I guess I thought the earth would uproot us in the way radishes are taken in spring. But I never envisioned the mouth we'd feed. And it turns out there isn't just one, there are many. And so few things to say about them that I feel I have been sent back to myself. Like a teenager I used to be, up late, alone, drawing at my quiet desk.
Dear Johnny Cash, were you really the first American to hear that Stalin died? Is it true the message came by Morse code, which you decoded? That could make any man a little bit famous. Or famous for a few minutes on Jeopardy! But I've heard it was you who would become famous anyway. Is that too much fame for one person? That's not my most important question. What I really want to know is what it felt like. That moment when you held the information in your ears, your head, your tongue. What did it taste like? Not candy, not cough drop or cake frosting. Pepper? Maybe pepper. Spice and surprise. Maybe that's not quite right either. And that's not even really why I'm writing. It's raining here. We're quarantined. I keep listening to the patter and taps drips, which might be Morse code. Hardly anybody knows that anymore. We're all desperate for a message, but we're not sufficiently trained to hear it. We need you, Johnny Cash.
While I swept the kitchen floor 1,000 times and scraped with pine saw. With company in my solitude while the stock market walked backward into a blue new morning. While masks went missing from hospitals and red dots grew to blotches on the COVID map. While the president blustered and lied and hoarded his stockpiles, while the cafes closed and the rich decamped to the Hamptons, while we skirted each other in streets and shoppers stripped the aisles of toilet paper, yogurt, and wine, while whole families huddled behind their laptops, new windows into each other's homes. Spring sent us a sprinkle of green buds to dot the crab apples, the sturdy cylinders of daffodils. Contagion gathered in the cups of crocuses. The blooms.
How to make a no-sew coronavirus face mask from a poem. 1. After you've read this poem, place it on your kitchen table. 2. From the top of the poem, fold down a flap of your fear. From the bottom, a flap of hope, until hope and fear meet in the middle. 3. Turn this poem over and smooth it tenderly with the side of your hand. You will no longer be able to read this poem. Trust it. 4. Feed an elastic hairband over each end of this poem the way you once gathered the strands of your daughter's ponytail. 5. Now fold in both ends of the poem until they overlap like waves on the bay. 6. Turn over the poem and plump the pleats. 7. Secure the elastic hairbands of this poem around the shells of your ears. 8. Wear this poem as if your life depended on it. Note to user. This poem is not guaranteed to save you or the world. However, evidence suggests that a poem may help you get through one more day.
One theory. If the same dandelion sprouts again in the same field, the honeybee might recognize its sweetness, but will never know. The firefly flashing in front of your face is the same one you see now in the plum tree. I speak of earthly things with such a fierce nostalgia. I replay the losses, memories, stubble of pumpkin vines, my father's propensity for silence. I was not ready for such memories when I used to touch everything. Now touch opens great fissures in me, one person, kissing me, touching me, intricate as tangled roots. I have been careful not to take anyone to bed who I do not want to remain in some way. I don't think I will ever be okay with the temporary lending of atoms, the porous and unstructured body of desire. Just once, I'd like to rest, with my full weight dissolving into the bed, the grass. Are you interested in one theory, one body, one death, one saturating feeling? I never considered how many frogs sing from the vernal pools at the ache of spring. To me, it is one song. And I have never needed my body to come back to me more than I do now. It could walk from the fields, around the corner of the barn, straight into my arms.